Okay. Hey, what's up? We've had some upsets the last couple of weeks in the Big 12 that have disrupted the Big 12 title race. Say hello, Iowa State last week to West Virginia. However, I don't think that's going to be the case this week. You're going to get my picks here in just a moment. Welcome into the YouTube channel. I am John Kurtz. I talk college football every day on this channel, predominantly Big 12 football and conference realignment. You get my picks live and in color once again. No more radio show picks. We're doing this thing for real. We're going to get to the friends that are coming into the Big 12 from the AAC and, of course, BYU as well. But we start with the Big 12 games coming up this weekend. Picking here against the spread, as always. K-State and Kansas, the old Sunflower Showdown at 11 o'clock on FS1. A game that I know a little something about. K-State has won 12 in a row in this series. It was, in fact, George W. Bush in office the last time that Kansas beat K-State in football. 24-point spread. K-State favored by 24. I'll be honest, this is one that does give me some pause simply because both of these teams played a really slow pace. They're among the slowest paced teams in the country, so there won't be a ton of possessions in this game, which makes it harder to stack up a big lead. And Kansas has played with some teams in the first half, obviously Oklahoma being the most glaring example there, but there are others. So I do worry about K-State's ability to cover a number that high because of that. However, Kansas has been so bad. K-State typically dominates this series because the roster is full of way more Kansas kids than what the Jayhawks have, so it means more to the K-State kids. And that disparity is 53-19 this year. I will take K-State to cover here in this game. Next up, we have Oklahoma State and West Virginia. That game at 2:30 on ESPN. Oklahoma State, a slim favorite. It's now 3.5. So 3.5, look, I'll be honest, I think that is a tricky game for Oklahoma State, and if this were just occurring in a vacuum, so I didn't have the context of what just happened last week, I would be much more inclined to think, oh boy, West Virginia has a really good shot here. However, West Virginia just pulled off the big upset last week against Iowa State, and I know you might say, well, John, that means they can do it, but I worry about them being able to pull off that kind of a game, that kind of a performance 2 weeks in a row. I mean, the bottom line is this West Virginia team has had some really nice performances in them this year, but they've been very scattered. This has not been a team that's been consistent in any way, shape, or form. I don't think they'll be consistent enough to follow through on it against Oklahoma State. I'll take the Cowboys by at least a touchdown in Morgantown. 2:30 on Fox, Baylor and TCU. Look, Baylor fans, I know that I've continued to say I think it's an 8-4 type of team, and I've picked against them. Do not mistake that as me not liking your team. I was thrilled that you guys beat Texas last week. Absolutely thrilled. Nothing against Baylor. It was just what my gut feeling was on this team. And I think now I'm coming around to the fact that hey, there was a lot more kind of championship DNA left over from Matt Rule's last team in 2019 that just got left by the wayside last year because of COVID and everything that happened with Aranda taking over. I understand how Baylor can be this good right now. I'm taking them to cover 6.5 at TCU. TCU right now, just a mess. They're a total mess. I saw them in Manhattan up close and in person last week. They don't have it. Gary Patterson is now gone. There's a lot happening with that program. I don't see TCU putting it together enough to actually hang with Baylor. Texas and Iowa State, 6:30 on FS1 at Jack Trice Stadium in Ames. The line here, also 6.5 in favor of the home Cyclones. I don't need to think too hard about this one. I know Iowa State, disappointing performance last week. Kind of what Matt Campbell does, right? I make the joke all the time, but outside of a COVID year last year where they had a lot of luck with injuries and COVID relative to their opponents, the guy loses 5 games a year. I think he's a good coach. I don't think he's an elite coach, which is what he gets made out to be in college football. But this is the type of game that this is in their wheelhouse, man. Motivated coming off the loss from last week, playing Texas in front of a home crowd that'll be jacked up. And Texas being a team that has had all sorts of controversy surrounding it, not just the losses. You had Monkeygate this week, and on top of that, Joshua Moore, one of the better players on the team, getting in a verbal altercation with Steve Sarkisian at practice. This, to me, has Iowa State cover written all over it. I'll take the Clones by a couple of scores. So now we move on to the American to go see our friends who are going to be coming into the Big 12 in 2023, obviously, if all goes well. Starting with number 6 Cincinnati, and it is painful to read that off, number 6 Cincinnati. Bleep you, College Football Playoff Selection Committee. 2:30 on ESPN2. They are 22.5-point favorites over Tulsa. I do think this is the game where Cincy gets back on track and puts up some style points, covers a big number, and hopefully assuages some doubt. I'm not sure what they can really do to the selection committee's mind at this point, but I think Cincinnati wins this by 4 touchdowns at least. Tulsa, they played a really tough schedule. I don't think they're a team that can hang with Cincy, and Cincy now is going to be as motivated as ever. UCF and Tulane, 3 o'clock on ESPNU. UCF a 13-point favorite. Tulane's 1-7. Obviously, they did kind of push Cincinnati fairly recently. But, man, UCF's been playing some good football. The only loss in the last month that they played was, of course, to Cincinnati, the last time that the Bearcats really put up some major style points. I think UCF is starting to get better, figuring some things out. I'll take them by at least 14 against Tulane. That one seems fairly easy to me, but not as easy as the last one on the docket. Houston and South Florida. I shouldn't say the last one on the docket. We have BYU coming up, but the last one on the docket here in the American. Houston is rolling. I know you could say letdown spot here, but man, South Florida is a bad team. I have watched them some this year, 2-6. A bad team. Houston a 13-point favorite. No stopping Dana now. You can say it's a road game, but how many people are going to be showing up for South Florida football against Houston there? I don't think that's going to be too terribly much of a road test. And finally, BYU. They take on Idaho State. I don't have a line here. You could find one offshore, I'm sure. 15th ranked BYU hosting Idaho State. ESPN 3, 2:30 Central. I don't know what I'm supposed to say here, Cougs, other than Cougs by 90. We say Cats by 90 around here. Cougs by 90. I think that will probably be the case against Idaho State. So there you have it. There are your picks for the week in college football. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you're mad, if you think I have your team totally off, if I am convenient. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you are upset, if I am always underrating your team, if you're upset with me, let me know. So there are your picks for the week. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you think I'm always doubting your team, if you are like the Baylor fans were after me last week, let me know in the comments. Let me know on Twitter at JLKurtz. Get after me. That's what this is for, man. It's all for fun. Make college football more enjoyable. In the comment section, like the video, please, and continue to follow along. I do college football on this channel every day, Big 12 football, conference realignment predominantly. You can follow me on Twitter as well, at JLKurtz. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.